Welcome to my list of the top 10 Nintendo 64 games. Now, I've played a lot of games on this console and it was really hard to narrow it down to just 10, but don't worry, I think I've got an all-star lineup that you guys will all agree is awesome. At number 10, we have Top Gear Rally. This was a fairly popular and well-received game early in the console's life, but it's become all but forgotten as years went on. But this is a game that doesn't deserve to be forgotten, because it's awesome. It's a rally racing game that's completely unrelated to that one show with the cars and British people, and it's very realistic. Its physics are seriously on point here. While it might take time to get used to the game, it's actually very smooth and responsive to play. But the real star of the show is the car editor, where you can completely throw out the default paint jobs for the cars and create your own. This editor is very powerful and can be used to make pretty much any car you could ever think of. I think this game is great, but don't take my word for it. Just listen to this IGN review of the game from 1997, and I quote, "Top Gear Rally is the first off-road racer to take on Sega Rally Championship, the finest of this subgenre, and beat it at almost every level." I mean, just listen to that. Are you really gonna argue against IGN? At number 9, we have 64 Trump Collection, Alice no Waku Waku Trump World. This is a game that was sadly only released in Japan, which is a crying shame, because it's actually pretty good. The N64 might have a lack of card games to play on it, but when you have one this good, it's hard to care that much. The game's visual style is pretty nice and holds up very well today, and the game also has a story mode, assuming you know Japanese and can actually understand it. There are over 13 different games to play here, featuring everything from blackjack to free cell to crazy eights, and the actual execution of the gameplay is good. You can play solitaire and poker on your N64, what more could you ever want? Admittedly, this game might not have the biggest widespread appeal to all gamers, but it does a very good job at what it does, and the sheer visual charm and the fact that this console doesn't have much else like it makes it a worthy title that deserves more attention. At number 8, we have Turok 2: Seeds of Evil. Now, this is a first-person shooter featuring tight controls, sharp graphics, and a lot of violence. The levels in this game are huge and expansive, with many things to do in them. In fact, my first time playing through this game, it took me almost 3 hours just to beat the first level. Thankfully, there's save points. This game also really discourages some of my bad gaming habits. I sometimes get lazy and just want to rush through a game without finding everything, but with this game, you don't get any such luck, because if you get to the end of a level without completing everything, you gotta start over before you can move on to the next one. This might sound annoying, but it's actually a pretty interesting approach that really encourages you to look through every nook and cranny. While this game might have absolutely terrible performance that makes it difficult to actually aim at your enemies, it more than makes up with that with its awesome arsenal of weapons. Seriously, one of the weapons in this game just locks onto an enemy's head, drills into it, and then explodes. How awesome is that? Also, this game has some of the most fun cheat codes of any game ever. I mean, you can change the coins to have a baby's face on them for some reason. What more could you ask for? At number 7, we have Mickey Speedway USA. This is a criminally underlooked game from the venerable developer Rareware, and as one of their later releases, it really shows off what this console is capable of. I mean, just look at this game. There aren't many other N64 games that look this good. But more importantly, it's the gameplay that gives this game a position on the list. I'm a bit of a kart racing connoisseur, and this game features some of the smoothest controls of any kart racer I've ever played in my life. The drifting just feels great, and you don't have any mini turbos or anything to abuse here. Your success depends on actual skill and taking the best racing line. Disney fans are in for a treat, as this game features lots of authentic voice acting from these classic Disney characters, and they're really chatty too. You even get a Steamboat level as an homage to Mickey's early years. Now, some Diddy Kong Racing veterans might be disappointed by the lack of planes and hovercrafts in this game, but let's be honest, those weren't as good as the kart, and plus, this game doesn't have any of those stupid silver coin levels, which is just another bonus. Mickey Speedway is just a game with a lot of attention to detail in every aspect. Heck, even the game's menus are cool and creative. Simply put, this game is a must-own for fans of kart racers. At number 6, we have Virtual Pool 64. Now, I've played quite a few different billiard games in my life, but none of them even come close to this one. It contains everything you could possibly want from a pool game. Great controls, lots of game modes, cheesy music, and just very good gameplay. The controls are extremely intuitive here. See, most pool games just have you hit your shot by timing an awkward power meter to control how hard you hit the ball, but in this game, you just hold down A, pull the control stick backwards, and then push it forwards to hit the ball, with the speed of the forwards motion determining the power of it. It's brilliant and offers a great level of control. There are more than 10 different types of pool you can play in this game, including rule variations for different styles of play, like American rules and British rules. And if there's a type of pool that you like that isn't in this game, you can just use the free play mode to play it, while keeping track of score yourself. Speaking of the practice mode, it's very in-depth here. You can even have the game set up famous shots from real-life pool championships for you to try and reproduce. Simply put, you can really tell the developers had a lot of passion for this sport, and if you do too, then this game is a must-own. So at number 5, we have Rugrats Scavenger Hunt. Now this isn't really a good game for the single player, but the multiplayer is among the very best on the console. In my opinion, it's even better than Mario Party. It's a board game featuring characters from the TV show. The goal of the game is different on all the boards, which makes the game feel varied and fresh. The gameplay is fast-paced and very strategic. It's one of those games that will seem simple at first, but actually has a lot of depth to it. An experienced player will almost always win against a novice player. One of the coolest parts about this game is it features authentic voice acting for every character, and there's a ton of different lines of dialogue. It feels like every turn they're saying something completely different from what they said on the previous turn. Once again, this isn't really a fun game by yourself, but if you have 4 controllers, then invite all your friends over for a Rugrats party. Just don't blame me if they never leave your house ever again. At number 4, we have Magical Hoppers. This is a 2.5D platformer with some pretty creative character designs and a nice overall style. It plays pretty well, and it's just a really fun game. Even though the gameplay is pretty much entirely 2D, the environments still feel alive and dynamic. It definitely doesn't feel like you're just running in a straight line from left to right all the time. Most importantly, it just feels good to control. There's quite a few levels to play through here, and the music is nice too. Plus, you get 2 different characters to play as, with the meaningful difference between them being nothing. The main bummer is that there's no way to save your game. Instead, you have to use passwords, which is kind of annoying, but not a deal breaker by any means. Go out and play this. At number 3, we have Bomberman 64, The Second Attack. Now, the original Bomberman 64 was universally panned by fans of the series for removing the classic plus-shaped explosions and replacing them with circular explosions that make it actually possible to hit enemies in a 3D space. But worry no more, because the Second Attack rectifies this by changing the explosions back to the classic plus shape that the series is known for. In fact, this game fixes many issues the original Bomberman 64 had, such as the areas being too expansive, the boss battles being too varied, the puzzles being too interesting, the game not having enough unskippable dialogue, the graphics and frame rate being too good, and more. The single player is very fun. I especially liked how the levels take an hour to complete, with one mistake meaning you have to start the whole thing over again. And the controls are so responsive that sometimes when I hit the A button, it actually recognizes that I want to put down a bomb. One aspect of this game that was given a huge focus is performance. Now, the character models in this game look significantly worse than the original Bomberman 64, but it's all worth it for that increase in frame rate, running silky smooth with almost no slowdown. This makes the multiplayer infinitely more playable, and that's where this game really shines. As with any Bomberman game, the multiplayer is the main attraction, and in this game, it's awesome. These battles can get nail-bitingly intense, and you get tons of extra game modes that you would actually want to play definitely. This is one of those games that's not only great for single player, but multiplayer too, making it a very worthy title. At number 2, we have Dual Heroes. This is a one-on-one 3D fighting game featuring characters that look a lot like Power Rangers, but they're actually better because unlike actual Power Rangers, these characters have tits. Now this game has a fairly steep learning curve, as the first time you play, the AI will probably just destroy you immediately until you learn some advanced techniques. But that's really where the fun comes from. It's such a deep and involved fighter that you can play for years and still learn new ways to get better at it. The game also controls very well. It doesn't allow you to use the D-pad, you have to use the analog stick for precise control on all the many moves that actually make use of this control scheme. You also get the super cool VR mode, which is just like the regular arcade mode, except a sprite of some random person makes noises at you during the battle. Simply put, this is one of the best and deepest fighters I've ever played. If Evo was a thing when this game came out, then I assure you that this little known gem would have been there. And at number 1, we have Elmo's Letter Adventure. Now, I know what you're all thinking, but don't judge a book by its cover. This is one of the most surprisingly addictive games I've ever played in my life. See, basically, you're given a letter, and you have to wander through the environments to find that letter. Being that there are over 26 letters in the alphabet, that means that this game has 26 times more replay value than almost any other game ever, because every time you play, the game is different. One of the biggest strengths of this game is the amount of control options you get. You can move with either the D-pad or the analog stick, and you can use one of 6 different buttons to do actions. This is great because I don't have to get frustrated when I accidentally push the wrong button and fail, because all the buttons work. The environments that you explore are also very unique and varied, featuring everything from a winding dirt path, another winding dirt path, underwater, underwater again, and more. This game can be completed in only about 10 minutes, but it's so much fun that chances are you'll play through it more than once in a single sitting. There is also another Elmo game released on the N64, which was Elmo's Number Journey, but that one is far inferior to this masterpiece. I could sit here and play this game forever if it weren't for the constant bathroom breaks I need to take in order to prevent myself from soiling my pants out of sheer excitement. If you've never picked up this hidden gem, I highly recommend giving it a try. You will not regret it. So yeah, those are my picks for the top 10 N64 games of all time. Now, if you disagree with me on any of this list, then feel free to go into the comments section and flame me for having such a bad opinion.